So we're heading down to Bates Timber today in Coventry. We're just going to be looking at what timber boards they supply and talking about some of our EPDM membranes and what the best type of boards are to use. So what are the best timber boards to use for EPDM rubber roofing? Today we'll go through OSB and plywood structural grades. So we've spoken to the rubber roof manufacturers and the timber board manufacturers, also the Single Ply Roofing Association, just to make sure everything's up to date and everything's helpful for you. So this is aimed at our Classic Bond system or Firestone, and these systems ideally need to be installed onto a new timber deck. So we do have other EPDM systems like Classic Bond Pro or Resitrix that don't necessarily need new timber boards, but these will be covered in separate videos. So the EPDM manufacturers recommend either OSB3 or plywood. They're both absolutely fine to use, but there are certain things that need to be considered. Starting with plywood, this needs to be S grade, which stands for structural. There are quite a few grades of plywood, so you just need to make sure you get the correct grade. The water-based adhesive will sink into the plywood, which allows it to dry. That means that the rubber will then stick to the timber. And the plywood needs to be at least 18mm thick if you're going to be using it as a structural deck. That's just going by the manufacturer's guidance. So plywood's made from loads of thin layers being glued together. This makes it really strong. It's not going to warp or crack due to the multi-layer construction of it. So moving on to the OSB now. Firstly, it needs to be OSB3 and not OSB2. OSB3 is used for exterior load-bearing applications, whilst OSB2 is used for interior non-load-bearing uses. We actually sell OSB3 at our warehouse, and we normally recommend this over plywood. One of the main reasons is because there's a lot less scope for error when specifying to a contractor. This is because OSB3 is manufactured to a standard across the industry. You do see some comments on the internet stating that OSB is inferior to ply, that if water gets on it the edges will blow, but really you should always be keeping your timber boards dry, so this should never be an issue. So the boards are made from thousands of pieces of wood glued and compressed together. It's all in different directions, which makes it really strong. So this makes it a lot less likely to delaminate as well. It's also why it's called oriented strand board. So prices of OSB and plywood can fluctuate widely depending on availability. So OSB used to be the most cost-effective option. At the time of shooting this video though, it was around 20% more expensive than ply. So is there a right or wrong way for the OSB to be installed? Generally speaking, it will be printed side up, but the manufacturer's data sheet should be consulted if you're not too sure. So another common question as well is, do I need to fill in the gaps if I'm using these square edge boards? So the manufacturer recommends not to fill in these gaps as that may compromise their purpose. This is because the boards may expand slightly due to moisture, so these gaps shouldn't be filled. The rubber membranes will accept these gaps. It's not going to be an issue for the rubber either. If you don't want to use a square edge board, you can also use tongue and groove boards like this, also known as TG4 in the industry. So TG4 means that it's got this interlocking design on all four sides, giving it a nice smooth finish once it's installed. So marine grade boards are also something that crop up time to time as well. An adhesion test will always need to be carried out though with these type of boards. So this is because it might prove to be less receptive to the water-based adhesive. It's not something that we would recommend either due to the cost of marine grade boards. You don't need to be spending money that you don't have to. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more of our videos.